President Donald J. Trump is back. His visit to East Palestine, Ohio, proved that he is a leader. In fact, not only is he back, but this event is going to become the Hurricane Katrina for at least Pete Buttigieg. Now, it really should be on Joe Biden, but it's Pete out there who's going to take the fall.
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth. I'm surviving on the top of the line.
3 weeks after a train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, that leaked thousands of gallons of toxic chemicals into the water, into the ground, and then they get the bright idea of doing a, quote, controlled burn and putting a nuclear cloud mushroom over the entire town. Why, even Gary Mike DeWine was in on it, and he came back and had his Obama moment like it was Flint, Michigan, when he drank the water out of a tap in a woman's kitchen and said, "See, the water's fine." Golly knows what his team of doctors did for him after he left that woman's kitchen to try to make sure that he is, quote, protected. Residents there are still talking about if you run a stick through the stream, that all kinds of weird colors and goop start emanating out of the water. Who really would want to go to Palestine, Ohio right now and eat, drink the water, buy a house there, live there? But nonetheless, for 3 weeks, Pete Buttigieg basically blew it off. He was more interested in what color skin pigmentation do road construction workers have. That there was too much inequality among the trade unions, which are all Democrat, by the way, and that there needed to be more people of color. That's what he was talking about when everybody else began talking about East Palestine, Ohio. And you would think those on the left who are so into, quote, the Green New Deal, and they are so environmentally conscious that, you know, you and I can't have plastic straws anymore because that's killing the planet. But hey, taking hundreds of thousands of gallons of toxic chemicals and just lighting them on fire over a residential town and creating this, you know, nuclear mushroom cloud over the town, perfectly fine, nothing to see here. FEMA's on it. The EPA is on it, even though they actually aren't. Right up until Donald Trump announced that he was going to visit East Palestine, Ohio, basically, Joe Biden was saying, this doesn't rise to the level of receiving special emergency funding. And so he took $500 million of our tax dollars over to Ukraine because he's, quote, protecting democracy. Bullhawk. Again, Ukraine is not a democracy, and Zelensky is just as corrupt as Putin. That's another issue. So while he's over in Kiev, Donald Trump went to East Palestine, and then that was it. Mayor Pete, like it or not, he had to go to East Palestine, Ohio. And you just knew that it was going to be a controlled situation. He would not be around any people because the residents of East Palestine, though they loved the visit they got from Donald Trump and made it clear, and some people have said, well, you know, there weren't as many people that showed up for him as we thought. That's because Donald Trump purposely kept the itinerary very locked down. People weren't even sure when he was going to get there or where he was going to be when he got there. He kept that locked down on purpose because he wasn't trying to turn this, quote, into a Trump rally. He was there for the people. And he is seen in a McDonald's with all of the first responders, bought them all dinner. He spent time with the first responders. He brought tractor-trailer loads of pallets of water, hundreds of thousands of bottles of water. He is sending in cleaning supplies and cleaning crews. He actually brought something. And yes, he did talk with residents and anybody who asked him questions. Now, Pete Buttigieg goes 24 hours later. He arrives at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay? and he wouldn't even answer questions from reporters.
Mayor Pete, why did it take you an entire 2.5 weeks to actually get here to respond to East Palestine? Will you apologize to the residents of this city for the slow response?
And happening here.
And can we also ask too why he waited until President Donald Trump came here to actually make an appearance? This is a very important question that people across America would like to know.
I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I do not want to be on camera.
Well,
please put your cameras away.
My name's I'm sorry, we're on a public area, so we are allowed as press.
You guys, I would like you guys to turn your cameras off.
So his press secretary says, I don't want to be on camera. Wait, what? His press secretary said, I don't want to be on camera. I'm sorry, isn't that what press secretaries do? They answer the questions of reporters. They go on the record on camera. Now, the Biden administration promises that they were going to be the most transparent administration in the history of administrations. Why would you not go on record in public over literally a monumental environmental disaster? It's because they got nothing. It was obvious Pete didn't want to be there. He was in his protected little gaggle. I am sure that all the people he was around were pre-screened to make sure that they were Biden-friendly, other than the mayor. And the mayor, I will say this, I'm assuming that, he is able to handle these situations in a way that he exudes good decorum. But right after Pete Buttigieg was there, you could tell the mayor got tickled that Rudy Giuliani showed up. And Rudy Giuliani is treated by the mainstream media as like pariah now. But the mayor was glad to see Mayor Giuliani. And the mayor basically said, when he was asked, what do you think of all this? He said, look, anybody who wants to come and bring help is welcome. I don't care if they're a Republican or a Democrat. But if you're just coming for the photo op, and that became the only thing the media could rail about Donald Trump. He was there for the photo op, but he brought tractor trailer loads of water, and he listened to people. And I'm not saying that, in Donald Trump's world travels that East Palestine, Ohio was ever on his to-go list. Yes, he went there, quote, for the photo op, but in the photo op, he brought help. What did Pete Buttigieg do? Well, when he was giving his prepared statements, he couldn't even get that right.
So I lost my train of thought.
Is that not the most classic of all Freudian slips? You are standing at a site of a major train derailment. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of toxic chemicals are making people sick and going to create long-term negative effects for literally years, decades to come. And you say, quote, I lost my train of thought.
So I lost my train of thought.
That's what I thought you said.
This has been handled badly. I mean, even if you are convinced that there's really, quote, nothing you can do, you go, you tell the people it's going to be okay, we're with you, we're for you. It took 3 weeks and Donald Trump to get the Biden administration to do anything. And that goes to the real heart of what I want to talk about. Donald Trump is back. It's obvious that faux pas news, formerly known as Fox News, they're not going to cover Trump positively at all anymore. They're just done with him, and they're all in for DeSantis. They're doing everything they can to try to push and really, get DeSantis to throw his hat in the ring. They're giving him, every little thing Ron DeSantis does or says in the state of Florida, Fox News has a banner headline. Do you know that the entire time Donald Trump was in East Palestine, there was not one newsflash or headline on Fox News Online? Nothing, nada. We're covering a murder trial. They actually today on their website, they had an article about a pimp who's been dead for about 5 years. The guy that used to own the Moonlight Bunny Ranch in Nevada. And, they had a story about him right on the front page of Fox News Online. Who gives a flying flip what a whorehouse in Nevada is up to? Seriously. We've got Joe Obama Biden and this rogue administration pushing us toward World War III with Russia using Ukraine as a chess pawn. We now have a military buildup in Taiwan because, China's decided that's their property and they want it back. And you've got this demented loon traveling Europe telling everybody that we will completely fund NATO and we will defend every inch of NATO ground, despite the fact Ukraine is not in NATO, and the fact that we were trying to push them to be in NATO is the very reason Russia invaded to begin with. But you didn't want Donald Trump. The guy was anti-military establishment, the guy that tweeted mean things, and yeah. We get it. We get it. Even the mainstream media is pushing back on the Biden administration over the incredibly broken border. Millions of illegals just pouring in here, and the drugs they're bringing, and the human sex trafficking, etc., etc., and the crime, and the homelessness, and the poverty. And but you didn't want Trump, the guy that could actually fix it. The guy that could actually bring an end to what's happening in Ukraine and get a handle on things and get control of things. You don't want that. You want more of the establishment. We got it. We got it, Fox News. You're frauds. You always have been. You're nothing more than controlled opposition, period. But this is really Donald Trump's moment. I said months ago, when Donald Trump first announced that he was going to run for the presidency, that the one disadvantage he was at, aside from the fact he had been kicked off all social media and he was trying to launch his own truth, that he needed to do something, and that the leg up that Ron DeSantis has is, as a sitting governor, he can appear in a position of authority, a position of power, where he can make executive decision and things happen. You know, whether it's taking on Mickey Mouse at Disney because, you know, they went after Ron DeSantis over education legislation. And again, there were things that Ron DeSantis has done that I absolutely agree with, but let's not forget, he is not Saint Ron. He was in lockdown just like every other governor. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. It was not till a pastor was arrested on live TV and dragged from his church of 5,000 congregants in handcuffs that Ron DeSantis' people looked at him and said, Mr. Governor, this is a problem. And it was then and only then that Ron DeSantis reopened the beaches, reopened churches, etc., etc., etc. And so he was just as much in all of that as everybody else. He opened up quicker. Good for him. But it was the state that pulled him to the right, not the other way around. And trust me, Ron DeSantis would be nothing more than status quo military establishment all over again. He will give us some social wins. I'll give him that. But I promise you, when it comes to, if you think he's going to go in there and be fiscally responsible and, you know, bring an end to these endless wars, no, nay. No, that's not going to happen under Ron DeSantis. But it will happen under Donald Trump, and that's why they don't want Trump. Because he's going to break their toys. He's going to end the military-industrial complex grip and grift. But that all said, Donald Trump was at a disadvantage because he's not in office. He couldn't really do anything. And Mr. President, nobody's going to come to your rallies just to hear you lament about Joe Biden stole the election, or listen to your endless grievances about how inept Joe Biden is. Again, some of it's very entertaining, and some of the things you say are clever and they're funny, yes, but you can't build a campaign about that. You know, Rush Limbaugh said something decades ago, and he's absolutely right. People don't stay mad forever. And you can't just give people something to vote against. They need something to vote for. And that was when I said, Mr. President, you need a big agenda. You took that escalator ride. You had a big agenda. It was build the wall. It was secure America. And yes, we understand that you didn't get all of your agenda done, and you want to pick up on that, but you need something new. And I've said one of the things that you could do is national health care. You need a big piece of legislation, a big idea that right now the Republicans are not necessarily in favor of. Mr. President, do you understand that you moved the entire Republican Party from being war hawkish to saying, wait, what are we doing in Ukraine? And why have we been 20 plus years in the Middle East? You did that, Mr. President. You did that by the sheer force of your personality and the fact that it was right. And you got people's eyes open, and you are rallying, believe it or not, people in the progressive left who are looking around at both parties saying, my God, they're all part of the same evil process. So I'm telling you, Mr. President, you have an opportunity to build a coalition that would absolutely scare the neocons and the political establishment to death if you got the progressives and the real conservatives together, because we are together against things like mandates. We are together on things like it's my body, my choice, and I'll decide what chemicals I'm going to pump into it. And I don't want your love potion number 9, Fauci. We want freedom of speech. We want tech to stop censoring and regulating. We want that. Both sides want that. It's time to bring that together. And you can bring it together on this one issue. This one issue would bring together a political coalition that no matter what level of corruption these guys cook up, they could not stop. National health care. You can get the American people, the American public in general, on the conservative side of thinking. You can get them on board with this. Hey, they got medical bills too. The reason for years they have been opposed to it is because their political leaders within the conservative movement have said that would be bad. Bad. It would bankrupt us. What? We're giving billions of dollars away to Ukraine. We're giving trillions away and all kinds of other crap around the world. Let's take some of that money and spend it right here. There's no control over how much money the military-industrial complex gets. There's never any worry or hand-wringing on Fox News about that. Lindsey Graham and his wet dream fantasies would have us perpetually at war with somebody all the time, because that's the only way he gets his rocks off. Guys dying. We're fighting this war with Russia because we don't want Russia and Germany to come together. You take German technology and German money and you put it together with Russian manpower and Russian natural resources. That, on paper, is what the deep state is terrified of. And we are seeing Russia and China come together with India and now Africa, and they are going to build a parallel economy that will absolutely eat our lunch. And thanks to all of Joe Biden's sanctions against Russia, Russia has now been able to convince Saudi Arabia to end the petrodollar. What does that mean? It means no longer do all the nations of the world have to buy oil in American currency like they have since the 1970s. They can now buy it in their own currency, which the only thing that has propped up the bankrupt America has been the petrodollar. The fact that every nation in the world that buys oil has to buy it in American currency. They no longer have to do that. When American Express and all of our corporations pulled out of Russia because of solidarity with Ukraine, all that debt that was created over there by the Russian people, they had American Express cards and they had Discover cards and MasterCard and Visa, and they were doing all of this business and had all of this money, and all of you corporations pull out. Do you know there's zero motivation for any of those people to pay any of that back? Who got saddled with all of their billions, if maybe not trillions of dollars in debt? Us, the American sucker. Thank you, Joe Biden. And now he's proposing even more sanctions against Russia. And all that's happening is China and Russia are getting together, and they will have all of their own versions of PayPal and Discover Card and MasterCard, and within a few years, they will buy and sell us. That's what Joe Biden did. This demented loon, on top of being corrupt with his drug-addicted, drug-addled son. So, Mr. President, Donald J. Trump, you're back. Going to Palestine absolutely has put the media in full panic. And what have they... Pete Buttigieg there talking about, well, you know, Donald Trump and deregulation, and that's why this derailment happened. Really? I thought Joe Biden rolled back all of Donald Trump's executive orders. So if Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation, knew that some of Donald Trump's executive orders affected, what's the word I want here, transportation, why didn't he bring executive orders before Joe Biden for his signature? Oh, that's right. He was too busy being on maternity leave. He's too busy not answering reporters when he's out on a date with his husband. I'm on personal time right now. He's always on personal time. For 3 weeks, he ignored this crisis in Ohio till Trump went, and then he had to go, and he looked like he was a 10-year-old kid wearing his dad's hard hat and vest, and he went in dress boots. He is so out of touch, so fake, so phony, so plastic. I've decided Pete Buttigieg is the Democrat version of Mitt Romney. He is the Democrat version of Mitt Romney. President Trump, by going to East Palestine, you demonstrated leadership. You showed everybody classic Trump, a man of action. You don't even have the resources of the federal government at your fingertips anymore, but you dipped into your own pocket. You did something, and the people saw that. Fox didn't want to cover it, but the people saw that. Now get that big issue and really rally the country. National